Now more of the Midcoast Morning Buzz with Richard and Jim. Radio 9, WCME.
On Friday, April the 12th, Lauren Umberhind, a 17-year-old Richmond High School honors student, took a group of her friends and neighbors and went up to Augusta to protest the budget cuts to the school budget of Governor Paul LePage. And it's great to see that student unrest is alive and well in the 21st century. Lauren, thank you so much for coming in this morning. I'm so proud of you. Jim and I are old rock throwers from the 60s. Back when the issues had to do with life and death and also marijuana, just like in 2013. So really nothing has changed. But tell us about what it is that you did and why did you do it? How are these budget cuts affecting you? Now, you made some national headlines here. A lot of articles about you and about this protest. Many of the titles of the articles were putting a face to the cuts. So how is this affecting you?
Well, like you said, I'm a senior, so it won't be affecting me directly, but I have a little brother and sister still in the program, so I want them to have the best education possible, and with these cuts, that may not happen, so I'm really just trying to look out for them.
By the way, how would you size up the current education you're receiving in Richmond?
Well, Richmond's such a small school that our opportunities are a little bit limited than what some of the bigger schools have. So I've had to kind of go beyond Richmond's means to make myself feel competitive.
How so? Get specific on that. How are opportunities limited in Richmond because it's a small school?
Well, there's only a certain amount of teachers, so sometimes AP classes have to be...
That's advanced placement classes.
Yes, excuse me. Advanced placement classes can only be offered every other year because of the strain on the teachers. So I've had to go to two other high schools in my district, Halldale High School and Monmouth Academy, to take those classes.
Is that a typical experience for a lot of students, or is that something that happened to you because you got aggressive and sought it out?
Well, I've been told I've been the first one to do this, so I have made myself aggressive in order to get the best education I felt.
Jim, if I could just jump in here and let you know what type of student Lauren is. She's an honor student, top 10 in her class. She's the RSU2 student representative to the school board, National Honor Society, missionary to Nicaragua for 2 years. She's going to be attending UMaine in Orono to study nursing and attend the Honors College. Her long-term goal is to become a nurse practitioner and bring medical attention to third world countries. So suffice it to say, she's not sitting around trying to be a Kardashian.
Yeah. Well, I'm quite a bit older than she is, and I have yet to accomplish like a 20th of that.
You can't spell Nicaragua.
Well, I can do that, but not much beyond. Lauren, what specifically, as specific as you can be, troubles you about Governor LePage's school funding plan?
Well, the cuts to my school specifically will mean even probably teacher cuts as well. So positions that are there now we may not have in the future. So certain classes won't be offered. So that means Richmond will be even further down on the opportunity list, and the students who go to Richmond will have more harder time to get those classes that they feel that they need in order to be competitive with Ivy League schools and just whatever colleges that they want to go to.
Let me try as best I can to summarize the governor's position in general and have you respond to it. You know, it wasn't too many years ago, and I didn't know this until the other night, but not too many years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, the state of Maine was actually funding a majority of public education in the state, picking up more than 50% of the total cost. You probably know that.
Yes.
It's the governor's position, as I understand it, that the state, especially given the current state of the economy, just can't do that anymore. And I have to say that when he was in Brunswick here a couple weeks ago addressing the Chamber of Commerce, he did appear to show some concern for education. He says he wants the schools to be better, and he's full of all kinds of facts and data about education. But his position is that we all have much to pay for in our lives, and the state simply cannot go on funding education at the level that it has. And if local districts want to improve their schools, it's incumbent on them to do it for themselves and perhaps raise local property taxes. What's wrong with that?
Well, Maine is a very rural state, so there's very small towns in Maine. We're not a very largely populated state. So the problem with that, I feel, is that small towns only have so much money, and taxes, from what I know from my parents' standpoint, are already very high. So just putting more weight on small towns and small business owners and whoever else pays those taxes in small towns is putting a great weight on them. So that's just inhibiting them even more.
I'd like to bring into the conversation Bill Matthews. He's the chairperson of the Finance Committee for RSU2. Bill, thank you for coming in this morning.
Thanks for having us.
Now, how do you address this issue as well?
I would have to say that the governor is also committed to keeping taxes low and has opposed any discussion, really, of increasing the sales tax, increasing the lodging tax, and some of these other options that we may need to get more revenue into the system. If you have a budget problem, you can either reduce what you're spending or you can raise revenue. And I think that from what I've talked to people in the legislature about, that there may be support for increasing some of our revenue streams.
Why is this the responsibility of the state as opposed to local governments, local taxing authorities?
Thanks. It's the law. There's a law on the books that the state needs to pay 55% of school funding, and at this point we did get to 52% several years ago, as you mentioned, but it's been dropping ever since. So this year on a $23 million budget, we're looking at $1 million in cuts from the state.
In a broader philosophical sense, though, I'm aware that the law is the law, and that's not insignificant. But how about just philosophically, in an economy like this, where you have unemployment in excess of 7% and a lot of people truly hurting and really, in some cases wondering how they're going to put food on the table, how do they withstand some of these school costs? Here in Brunswick, we're talking about an increase more than 10.5% in the school budget for next year, not to mention an overall municipal tax hike of nearly 12%. I mean, how is that tolerable?
I understand that, and one hopes that this is a short-term dilemma. But if Maine is to have a prosperous future, that's going to be dependent on the education we can offer our kids.
Lauren, I'd like to bring you back into this. Also, Charlotte Crosby as well, who was a student at MSAD 75. Charlotte, how did you get involved in this?
I got involved. Our connection is Lauren is my cousin, and she sent out a Facebook post like everybody else. I saw it, and I was like, I want to get involved with this. I am on student government at my school, so I feel pretty passionate about issues such as this. I'm a really involved student. I like to, do my civic duty. And I think a lot of kids out there don't realize the extent of these cuts. And I'm willing to put myself out there and put a face to the cuts, as well as Lauren. And I think together we made a pretty good team, and she got a lot of people out there, and I was happy to be a part of it.
Well, talking about a lot of people, how was the turnout? Were you happy with it?
Oh, I am very happy with it. I mean, the weather that day was supposed to be awful. It was supposed to have freezing rain, so the people who came out were so excited to be there, so committed to these cuts, to put a face to the name. So I'm thankful for everyone who showed up and gave their support.
What kind of reaction did you receive from legislators and power brokers and people like that? What have you been hearing?
Well, the people who were going into the State House as we were walking around, they were mostly just clapping for us, saying, good job, we're glad that you're here. This is why we're in government, to give people the opportunity to have the freedoms of speech and freedom of protest. So it was a very nice welcome.
Did you meet with anyone from the governor's office?
Yeah, we sat in on education hearing. They let us sit in and just listen to what they were talking about.
That was a legislative hearing, though, wasn't it? Or was that in the governor's office, or what?
No, that was, I believe it was the education committee here. Yes.
It sounds like a legislative hearing.
No, it wasn't.
Okay. I'm sorry, but anybody in the legislature or the leadership or anybody say anything to encourage you?
We did meet Seth Goodall and Senator Seth Goodall and Representative Seth Berry came out and congratulated Lauren on all of her accomplishments, as well as, commending the group for being teen students coming out here and, saying what we felt. We also, to answer your former question, we did one of Governor LePage's, I don't remember her name, she was a female, his education advisor did come and speak with us about charter schools, and we had some things to say to her. It was a little hard hearing what she had to say, but we kept cool. So
what bothers you about that? I'd like to have you talk about that, since that seems to be on your mind. Charter schools are a very big issue right now. The governor sees charter schools as a way of bringing overall net improvement to the state's school system. What's wrong with that?
I don't know a lot about charter schools, and I know there are a lot of different types of charter schools, but I don't see the point in shifting funding from public schools that are already struggling and creating a brand new program, and we should just give all the funding to our public schools and strengthen them and encourage them to improve their programs. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know that I'd want to touch that one.
Ladies, thank you so much for coming in. Our guests this morning have been Lauren Umberhind, a 17-year-old honor student from Richmond High School, Charlotte Crosby, her cousin, a student at MSAD 75, and also Bill Matthews, the chairperson of the Finance Committee for RSU number 2. Ladies, keep the good fight going. Thank you so much. You truly are Maine's best and brightest. Our doors are always open for you. Best of luck to you kids.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having us.
Radio 9 WCME.